I'm Lori Cooch. Thanks for coming back this week. I'm trying to make a video each week to demo one of the new Close to My Heart products, and today we're using the Bloom with Grace scrapbooking stamp and thin cut set. I am not using the thin cuts today. We're going to do some coloring with the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers. So if you're not familiar with those, we're going to get those out. You're going to get to see those in action. And we're using this stamp today, just the stamp. What are we making? A magic card. And if you don't know what a magic card is, I didn't know. I saw this and it blew my mind. So I knew I had to make this to show you. So hopefully you're as impressed with this as I was. So here is the card. And then we got the tab up top. And look at that. Get closer. It's hard to do this way. It goes in there. There. Do that again. How exciting. I love this. It blew my mind. This is what we're going to make. So stick around. And if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please just click the subscribe button right below here. It's red, I think. And then you'll be notified each week when I post a new video. And also, you're going to pay attention to the info below the video. I'm going to put links to everything I used in that right there so you can find it quickly and easy. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back for my weekly project video. Today we're going to do something called a magic card, and this concept is like totally brand new to me, and I saw it and kind of just blew my mind, to be honest with you. So that's what we're gonna make. So to do that, we're using the Bloom with Grace scrapbooking stamp. It is Z like zebra 3769. I will put links to all of the products that I use below in the the info about this video, so you can easily go and get them. We're going to be using a piece of the Bloom with Grace paper. We have a piece of acetate, and then of course some cardstock, and I have got one sheet of French vanilla. You could use white. I liked the softness of the French vanilla with the sunflowers here. So, and it actually says, I don't know if you knew this, on the zip strips for each of our B&T papers, it tells you the featured colors. We have Canary, Desert Rose, Espresso, Fern, French Vanilla, Sangria, and Toffee. So French Vanilla is the color that matches this. So for starting off, move this out of the way, we're going to cut, we're also going to use the Intense Black ink and some StazOn ink, and then we're gonna do some coloring too. So this will be a little bit longer video than normal, but it's worth it. So we're gonna cut our cardstock to 5.5 by 12, and I use the Cricut 12-inch trimmer. It's the best one I've ever used. I've had several and I have thrown them in the trash. So I like this one. I actually have several of these, and that's what I use. Okay, so cut this at 5.5 by 12. Now, the first thing we're going to do is score. We're going to turn it long ways, and we're going to score it at 4 inches. Now, there is a scoring blade for this. This just pops off, and you put the scoring blade on, but who has that kind of time? I don't do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put this at 4 inches. I'm going to grab my bone folder and drop it, and then just run it through into that groove and score that piece of paper there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to move it 1/8 of an inch inside the 4-inch. So this is where I am bad at measurement. So let me count here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so on my cutter, each of these, not the full on like 1-inch marks, but I don't know if you can see this. The longer marks here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are the 1/8 marks. So I want to move my score line to 1/8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, that's hard to tell. So we're gonna move it this. I'm gonna flip it around because I want my score line over here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Still hard to tell, but we're going to just eyeball it. And just know that wherever I put this right now is where I'm going to do it on the other side as well. So I'm going to put it just about halfway between this last mark and where it's going to score. And I'm doing, there's just no marks closer to it is why. So we're going to be okay. It's going to work out fine. So there. So now I have my 4-inch score here. Can you see these score lines? And then I'm about 1/8 in over there. So the next thing is we're going to score at 4 1/4 because a basic card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And remember, this is 5 1/2. So we're going to put our inside score line from the first score line. So we're going to, let me finish reading my instruction. Left of the 4 1/4. So I want this first score line here, the very first one, to be at 4 1/4. Because then that's going to make our card the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So between this score line that I just did and the first score line we did at 4 inches, we are at 4 1/4. So then I'm going to move 1/8 of an inch from this one again. Again, I'm just eyeballing it since my cutter here doesn't have 1/8 that I can easily get to that. So I'm sure there's an easier way. I'm eyeballing it and it's totally fine. Well, I'm okay. So, well, see, I screwed up. I'm a little bit in right there. So I'm going to fix that because I do want crisp score lines, because that will set the squareness of our card. Sorry, got frazzled there for a second. Okay, so now I'm just going to fold on those score lines. And it's a little hard because they are super duper duper close together. We're not done with our cutting yet, but I'm just setting it aside. Oh, goodness. Okay. There. So I'm going to use my bone folder and make sure I have good creases on each of those score lines. Lick my fingers, that seems to help. So basically our card's going to be about that thick. That little 1/8 of a eyeballed 1/8. So now we're going to fold this one. keep pulling it closer to me, and you can't see it, but I'm sorry. I will be better. Okay. So there I have, and I got some gook here. Not even gonna matter. You're not gonna see it. So there's our basic card thickness. So next, we are going to cut the front of our card. So I'm gonna set this aside. And we're going to cut this also at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So let me just cut off that zip strip. And I know you guys must think I'm crazy. I'm using this upside down because I'm left-handed. So yes, I know it's meant to be with the extender on the top where it's not upside down, but I'm left-handed. So that's why that is that way. So I'm gonna go, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This way. And then the 4 1/4. Then we're not done with this yet. But we're going to put it on our card front. And you're going to be right in between those score lines, because remember, your card front is 4 1/4. And you want to keep it super close to the side. So I'm just gonna grab some score tape and run it down each side, because it's narrow and I can place it carefully. This is very, very, very important to keep it to the side, and that will make sense here in a little bit as we move forward with what we're doing. Be sure not to cover up your backing, because then you won't be able to pull it off. And I just got this stuff on Amazon. So again, I will put a link to all the things down below. And I went over a little smidgen right there, so I'm just going to trim it off. Not a big deal. And then pull the backing off of each of them. And put it down. Okay, so our card needs to have a center cut out of it. So I'm going to go with a 1-inch border. So that's what we're going to cut next. We're going to cut through both of these pieces. So I'm going to put it this way so that I can see. And I know, and hopefully you can see the score lines. This is where my score line is. And I want it to be 1 inch in, because I want, not a whole inch, a 1/2 inch. Because I want a 1-inch border. Math is hard. So I want a 1-inch border, so I need to do a 1/2 inch around. So I'm going to go from my score line, okay, a 1/2 inch. And I know it's this line right here, so it's easy to put it all the way down and do this. And then I want it a 1/2 of an inch in as well. So at 5, and now this, most cutters have these little marks, so that tells me right where my blade is at. So I can line it up at the 5, and because I'm going through 2 layers, kind of push and drag it down to the 1/2 inch here and pick it up. I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to do the same exact thing with this score line at 1/2 inch. Lining it up on the 5. And going to the 1/2 inch. So now I just need to cut between the 2 score lines, or the cut lines. So I know I'm at 1/2 inch, so I should be able to line this up at 1/2 inch. And I can see where that line is and drag it down to the other line. And I missed a little bit off. Wow, that was a lot off. I'm just gonna grab my scissors and cut that. Why am I so off? Guys, having a dinner, it's been a long day. I'm gonna make every excuse in the book. I'm bad at measuring. I never said I was good. So I can see here that my one line was way off because I'm not close anywhere. So I'm just gonna cut it with some scissors. It will be fine and dandy. Measure better than me because I clearly need help. Maybe scissors aren't gonna work. There we go. This is what happens when you do a video and you're making it, things are gonna go wrong. That always happens, but it's okay. There. So we still have our 1/2 inch all the way around, and you can barely even see where I overcut, and you're not gonna see that when this card is made anyway. So these are extra. You don't have tape on them, so you can use them somewhere else. Okay, so this part of the card is now done. Easy, easy, right? Oh, nope, you know what? I lied. We want to keep this, the integrity of our little pop-up there. So we want it to keep the thickness. So we're going to take some of the narrow, the thin, that one's not very sticky, it was old, the thin puffy tape. And I'm just going to cut a couple pieces, and I'm actually going to cut them in half. Oh, that one flung all over the foot there. And you're going to run them right next to your crease line. And you don't want it really wide because you want the card, the magic of this card, to slide. So you're going to just stick it really, really, really close to that line. You don't have to go like the whole width. You don't need to. You just want it to protect the integrity of the square, I guess. It's not really a square, but the squareness of the card. And last one, well, not last one, we have to do some on the bottom. As well. So I'm going to go this way. I'm going to make it my card go that way, so it makes this the bottom. So I need another piece of tape at the bottom to stop our magic card. And it will make sense if you don't know what this is. Oh, my. So just put it towards the bottom, and my scissors stuck to it, so this will stop the slide action of the card. So peel the backing off of these. No, don't peel the backing off. I'm losing my mind here, guys. 3D foam kind of lays along storyline. Yep. Don't peel those off yet. We have another piece we need to cut with our white cardstock. And so we need to cut this at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This is going to make the magic part of our card. I get ahead of myself. I need to slow down. So this piece is going to then go on our foam tape. So stick that on there, get it straight so that your card will close correctly. Okay. Then see, now our foam tape holds those in place. We're just going to take our normal tape runner, and you don't want tape in here. Don't put tape in there. You want tape on here though to keep it closed. And don't put it over here, because if this doesn't reach all the way over, you're going to have adhesive there. So you're going to put it on the inside flap and the outside flap. And then it's going to hold our card closed. Magic. So there's our card base. So now the next part, the hardest part is done. I don't have any washi. Oh yeah, I do. Okay. So the next part, we're going to cut some cardstock. And this is going to need to slide in here. So we're going to cut this at like 3 1/4. And we're going to go with a 6-inch piece. So I'm going to go 3 1/4. No, 3 3/4. And you're going to make it longer than what you need it, because you're going to trim it off later. This just allows for a little extra ability to hold on to it while you're creating. And then you're going to cut a piece of acetate at 3 3/4. Ooh, I didn't hold it very well. So acetate is tricky. 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. Because remember, our card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now acetate comes with a little protective cover on it. You want to peel that off. I think it's only on the one side. Or is it on both? I think it might be on both. Don't get old, folks. Can't see what I'm doing. So let's see, is it on both? Yeah, nope, only on the one side. Don't mind the crazy lady. Okay, this is where we're going to do some stamping. And I'm going to grab my Versamat, because if you this is the Versamat. If you flip it over, it gives you a little more cushion for stamping on. I'm still going to use the little foam pad that comes in this right here. I'm going to do it both. We are not using the thin cuts today, so I'm going to set those aside. But we are going to use the boot. Well, I assume we're using the boot. Let's make sure it fits. And it does. So the bigger stamps, here's the thing. I didn't show you this. It might not fit all the way on here. That's okay. So if you put your piece in here, I really like the stamp, so this is the one we're using. And you slide it in. I'm gonna gently take a pencil, and remember we put the piece at the bottom, so it stops. I'm gonna just kind of mark our edges because I want to get the boot. And I'm gonna erase these lines later. I want to get the boot in here, but the sunflower can go over. That's okay. So to pick up a big stamp like this, you don't want any air bubbles. So I put mine on the styrofoam, and then I pick it up with the block. And then you get a nice good seal, and there's no air bubbles. Now you want to season it. Normally I would do it on my arm. I have a sweater. So I'm just using my hand. So here's the fun thing. I have my lines, and I know I want my boot in that line. And like I anticipated, the sunflower and the edge of that boot down here, the toe, is going to kind of be hidden, but that's okay. I'm fine with that. So I'm going to use the Intense Black. And another thing that I do on the larger stamps is, instead of stamping, can you see this? Instead of inking my stamp pad this way, I want good clean coverage, and I don't want to be all inky. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to bring my stamp pad to the stamp. And I'm using the Intense Black because we are going to color. Make sure I get it everywhere I'm supposed to. And I think I missed some right there. I can see the inside of this sunflower wasn't getting covered. Okay, so now I am going to stamp it inside my pencil marks, knowing full well the tip of my boot is going to not be there. So don't mind my head. I'm sure my head's in the way right now. And you want a really good clean stamp. Ta-da! Okay. Now, we have the stamp chamois. I'm still using up my stamp scrubber. So I am going to just spritz it and clean this off real quick. Keep this on your stamp, on your block, because we're going to use it here in a second with the StazOn. Okay. Now, this is where you have to be super duper duper careful. You need your acetate to sit perfect right on top of your image. So I'm going to grab some washi tape. And I'm going to tape it down. You do not want this to move at all. This is very, very, very important. Okay. Now I'm going to ink my stamp with the StazOn. And make sure it covers really good, because you're going to be stamping on your acetate and there's not going to be anything to hide any mistakes. So make sure you're really, really, really got good coverage. And then you're gonna line it up exactly. So my head is totally gonna get in the way of you seeing, but it's very important that it be completely lined up. And I'm gonna stand up to get some pressure on there. And I really, really, really hope this works without having to redo it, because it is common when stamping on vellum to have to redo it. And we don't want that. When you pick this up, make sure you pull straight up. You don't want it any sliding to happen. Yay! It seems to have worked. So now I'm just going to clean this real quick, because StazOn is a permanent ink and I don't want to ruin my stamp. It's going to be discolored, of course, but I want to get as much of it off as I can. Oh, and look, it all came off. Okay. So now I'm going to just carefully, without touching my stamped image anywhere, remove it so it can sit over here and dry. It will dry pretty quickly. Save your washi because you're going to need it again. Now we get to color. So I'm going to move these out of the way, and I'm going to turn my mat over so we can color. So we're going to use the Tri-Blend Spectrum Noir markers. Let's see if I can find some colors. So I'm going to do the spur. And I want to see, so I've got scratch paper here. So if I go light, to see which shade I want to do on the spur. So I'm going to come in with the light and color the spur, but we're going to come back with some of the other darker shades to give it some aging. So now I'm going to come in with the mid and go around the edges. Maybe a couple of these. Definitely on this part. And then you just come back in with the light and blend it together again. So it gives it some aged look, but the colors just blend in. And it's hard to tell on this, I see, but it's okay. So on the tips, because the tips of boots tend to get a little bit more worn, I'm going to use the medium, the mid one, and I'm going to come in with the dark around the edges. And come in with the mid and blend it in together. Going to do the same on this little strap right here. I'm going to stay with the light. And then come in with the mid. Right on the edges of it. Just to give it that aged look a little bit. It's really hard to, I'm sure you guys can't see it. Because can you see the different tones? I don't know that you can. But that's okay. So now we're going to do the boot. And let's look at our colors we have on the boot. This is the light. Mid. And the dark. I think the dark might be a little too dark. So I'm going to start with the light again. And we'll go down here. And just shade this in. And we all know our boots get a little more weathered at the tips. I'm coming in with the mid, coming in with a little darker image or ink, and then gonna blend that in, going over it again. And that all just blends right in. So we're going to do the same thing for the rest of the boot. And I'm going to do it in sections because when your inks are wetter, does that make sense? More wet? I don't know what the word is. They blend easier. So if I colored the whole boot and then came back and tried to add the highlighting and the shading, it may not blend out so well. So I'm going to do it in some sections. If you haven't tried these markers, I love them. They blend so well. And I've never been one to do very well with the coloring and the blending, but these make it easy. And I'm going for, can you see the multicolor? Because we all know a pair of worn boots, they do that. They weather out. And I'm on purpose ignoring this patch on the top because that would be darker. Just from, because it'll get hit more, rubbed against more. So that's going to pick up more oils in a real pair of boots. So I'm going to do that one darker than what I'm doing these ones here. At least on my boots they do. So on that piece and on the little decorative piece, I'm going to start with the mid and then come in and highlight with the dark. To give it that weathered. Finish your thought, silly. Weathered look. And you can just keep putting, layering on top until you get the desired effect that you want. So I'm going to do the mid in here. One thing about these pens, make sure you have something behind what you're coloring that can get color on it, because they will go through. Partially, that's why I put the Versamat down. The other part is just has green texture to it, and I didn't want that in my coloring. So I'm going to come around the edges all the way around with the dark. And then I'm going to come in with the light and blend it. And now do the same on this one. I told you this project was going to take a little bit longer because of the coloring. But let's face it, we like to color. And there are some places on my stamp that didn't come through all the way, and that's okay, because it's going to add it a little more weathered look. And then the rest of the boot, remember I'm doing that in the light. So I just kind of try to figure out where the seams are and then add the aging and the weathered look there. So like this is going to be a seam. Going to have some weathering in here. Probably right in here too. Okay. And then this side. And I'm doing this in the muted browns because our sunflowers are going to have the pop of color. And you can mix colors together. Like you don't have to use all from the same pen. So we're going to do that, I think, up in the sunflowers. I actually haven't even decided what colors we're going to do up there yet. We shall see. Add some weathering or aging, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So let's look at our yellow options here. So we got to stay, like I would like to do an orange, but we kind of need to stay with the color of these sunflowers here. So I don't think citrus is going to do it for me, but let's see. There's our light. Oh, maybe it will. And our mid. And then the dark. Yeah, I think that'll do it. And then maybe add in some light orange in there. Or is that too bright of an orange? Let's see. I think that's too bright of an orange for this paper. So we're just going to stick with the yellows. So I'm not going to do them all. The first one I'm going to start out in light, and I'm going to do a few leaves and then come in with the darker, but remember you don't want to do the whole thing because they blend better while they are still wet. So I'm going to do a few of the leaves and come in with a mid, like right around the edges and on these little leaf mark. I mean, they're not leaves, but the little lines here and around the edges where it tends to be darker at the edges. And then blend it out with the light. Now the next one I will do different shades. I mean, this is still the same flower, so I have to stay here. And the reason we used the intense black ink to stamp this is because it helps with the smearing, so that when I'm coloring over the black, it doesn't smear as bad as if I had used just the regular black. So that's always a bonus. This one goes this way. So I'm just adding that darker hue in there to give these petals some real variation, because flowers, they're never perfectly 100% the same color. So now this one over here, I'm going to start with the mid, and then I'm going to come in with the dark and blend that one out. So we have a little darker flower over here, and this one's a smaller flower, so I'm just going to do it all. Then I'm going to come in with the dark. And give this one some brighter hues to it. Not covering the whole leaf, just kind of around the edges, at the tips maybe. And then blend it in with, it's hard to tell, but there is a very subtle difference in the color. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one up here. I'm going to stay with the mid so it's a little bit brighter. And you can see that there's some of these petals behind what's going to be greenery. I'm going to add the dark. I'm actually surprised my dog isn't nipping at the door wanting in like he normally does. And this one I'm not going to blend in. I'm going to just leave it darker. Then we have some leaves back here that are clearly sunflower leaves for a flower that is behind the greenery that we can't see. So I'm just going to color them in. And even with the dark, like I'm using just the dark right now, I can come back over it and add another layer over it, which gives it a little bit darker hue. And then we need some green. Let's pick our greens. I'm thinking this mid, maybe not. Kind of want a more, that's the green I want right there. So this is the Dole green blend. This is a little too bright, more summery green. Yeah, that's just not what I want. I'm wanting the darker green like this. So I'm going to color some leaves with the green, and I went with the mid. You know, now I'm looking at these might be sunflowers, but that's okay. Today, they're going to be leaves. And the green kind of shows the blending effect a little bit more than the yellow did. Gonna throw this in there. We are almost done, guys. We just have to color and then put the final assembly on, and that's it. We're done. So I'll do this one. You hear my husband in the kitchen? He is making tons of noise. Shouldn't complain. He's in the kitchen, right? He's actually making the dinner because I'm in here. So there is no complaints from me. Do your husbands cook? Mine does. In fact, he does basically all of the cooking. So you will not hear any complaints out of me. So before you think, oh my gosh, we have to color the other one, we don't. What we colored on the acetate, we are not going to color. That's going to stay just a basic stamp. And that's what makes the magic card magic. You're almost done. Gonna throw in some highlights here. And I will say, I am not a good person to color. Like, these alcohol markers scared me, the bejeebers out of me. I didn't know how to use them. I didn't know how they worked. I was afraid of screwing things up. And let me tell you, the only way you're going to get comfortable using them is to use them. That's it. That's the only way. You can't just sit and watch videos, which help. You know, watch videos. Go to the Spectrum YouTube page and learn their tips, learn their tricks. But the only way you're going to be able to be comfortable doing it is to do it. And that is what I finally had to just do. Ooh. And if you didn't know, we actually have, these are our basic colors, and in the new catalog, there's like a whole nother set of Spectrum Noir markers that we carry. So those are something fun to check out. So I think that turned out really cute. I like how that looks. And now I'm going to come in here with my eraser and gently erase these little pencil marks that I made before. Okay, the tricky part now is lining this back up on here. Okay. Oh, let me do this first. I'm going to put washi tape on the back of this card. It's not going to stay there, but it's going to aid us, and this will make sense. make sense in a minute. So line up your stamped image with your card and then tape it. It's very important that this doesn't move here in a second. Okay, now I need a tab, and I didn't cut one earlier. I should have, I forgot. So don't shoot me. So I'm just gonna grab the Thin Cuts border tab and cut a tab real quickly. Actually, I'm gonna cut two out of some of this Daisy paper. Oh, that's a nightmare to put back in. So I'm gonna take this and my Cuttlebug. I'm gonna move this out of the way for a minute so I can cut these little tabs. I should have had this pre-done. I apologize. I didn't even think about it until right now. So I'm going to end up putting these front to back. So I'm going to do one face up and one face down. And I'm not really going to care mostly about the width of it, so it doesn't have to be lined up. Perfect. So this is all I'm actually going to care about is this piece right here. And I want them to go front and back. So now I'm going to cut one that way. And get this out of the way. Move this. Oh, my chair gets stuck. Anybody else have a chair that gets stuck? So I'm going to just take my scissors and cut this tab off. And I do the same thing here. Then I'm going to take, liquid glass would totally work for this. I just don't have a pen here with me right now to unclog it. And we all know liquid glass clogs up. We love it. It works fabulous, but it clogs. So I'm just going to use my art glitter glue. Then I'm going to come right around the top, just adding in some glue, but just at the top. You don't want to glue down the bottom just yet. Where are my tweezers? You guys, if you could see, and I know I say this all the time, but if you could see my desk, whew, I started reorganizing my craft room and it's all piled on my desk behind me. So I'm just gonna put that down there like that. And that's our little tab for pulling it up. So because we didn't put it at the bottom, I'm going to just fold. I did get some down there. Fold this up a little bit. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue down here. And should have done this first. I'm going to just take my scissors, trim off this edge. We no longer need it. And then I'm going to set this into my glue. And I'm going to put some on the top here. To hold this down. So what we have basically done is we have made a piece that's going to glue our acetate and our cardstock together. And I'm going to let that dry before I take off our washi. So I'll just start putting stuff away while that dries and settles for a little bit. Got some popping out. It's okay, the art glitter glue dries perfectly clear, just like our liquid glass. So I'm going to put the pins away that I used. I've got these little trays that I bought that hold my pens right here. I don't think you can see them, but they work really cute, really good. Okay, so now that is down. I can then take, oh, I'm looking for something and I don't know what, this little pick. Take our washi off. And so what we have here is a hinge on our acetate and our colored piece. Now here is where the magic happens. So this little piece that you put in there that I said do not put tape on it, you need to run it between these two pieces. So I am going to start the back, the cardstock piece, and then I'm going to, oh, that didn't work. So here's the hardest part of the whole thing, is getting it in there. So look at that. There's your magic card. Isn't that amazing? This literally blew my mind, you guys. Like, I was freaking out. How cute. Can you see it? Am I going too far? So then we're going to add just a little touch of embellishment. I don't know where I lost my zip strip at that I cut off. Anybody know? Anybody see the zip strip I cut off? I'm sure you don't, because you can't see the mess. That's okay. We will use this. So I'm going to cut this. I wish I knew where that zip strip was, though. That would have been perfect. Look, 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 look. No, no zip strip. All right. Oh, it's right there on my cutter. Ta-da! What do you like better, the green? I like the brown. So we know it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So this is 4 1/4. So cut this at 4 1/4, but then I'm going to dovetail it. You know the trick to dovetailing. Hold it this way and cut up the middle as far as you want your dovetail to go, and then cut from the corner. That was game-changing information when I learned that. Just going to put that right about there. And I'm actually gonna do that with puffy tape if I can find it. So I'm going to just put a couple pieces. And here's something I see a lot of people do. You don't have to. I see people like coat this whole thing in the puffy tape. You don't have to do that. You're just buying more tape than what you need to do. These 3 little pieces are plenty. But hey, I am happy to sell you more if you want it. But you don't need it. I'm going to line that right there. Make sure, ooh, I didn't do that. Make sure you don't get this on your acetate or it won't move anymore. So make sure your foam tape is not on your acetate. Okay. So there you go. There's your magic card. How exciting. I am blown away by this. I'm just in love and I will probably do this so many times. And then you can stamp a sentiment, or on the back you can use that as your actual card, since there's not really anywhere to like write a note. You could also stamp on here and under there on that, so it shows up when it's raised, or you can write on the back. You know, you decide. Again, that's where I showed you it colors through. So I hope you followed with me all the way through. I know it was a little longer than what I like to do, but sometimes these techniques just take longer than others, and this is gonna take me forever to get this back in here. So thanks for watching. Please click subscribe if you like this card and want to be notified each week when I post a new project. So just the subscribe button, click subscribe, and you'll get a little email or notification that says I have posted something new, and you can then come and watch it. And any of the products that I use, like I said, they're going to be listed below in the video information. If you have any questions, you can always find me right here. You can make a comment. I will say that YouTube has been a little slow in notifying me of comments or questions, so I have been trying to remember to come in every day and look. You can always message me on Facebook. I'm under Lori Farmer Cooch. My Facebook group is Lori Cooch Independent Consultant, as well as a Facebook page. So you can find me on any of those social media platforms. Also on Instagram, it's Toribe, Toribe. So I hope to see you online and in my groups and answer any questions that you have. Thanks for watching.